Have you ever tried breathing through a really pinched straw? Well, for millions and millions of people with asthma, that feeling can be a part of life. So today we're going to break down what asthma really is, what's actually happening inside your lungs, and talk about the amazing tools that help people breathe so much easier. Let's dive in.
Okay, so to really get what's happening with asthma, you've got to picture your airways as a big network of tunnels. Now look on the left. In a healthy lung, those tunnels are wide open. It's like a clear superhighway for every single breath you take. But then look at the right. That's an asthmatic airway during a flare-up. See how narrow and inflamed it is? It's like a 5-lane highway suddenly squeezing down to just one lane in the middle of rush hour. You can see why it would be so tough for air to get through.
So what is asthma officially? Well, it's a chronic, long-term disease. This isn't like a cold that you just get over. The real problem, the core issue, is inflammation. The inner walls of those airway tunnels get all swollen, which makes them super sensitive and, you guessed it, narrow. And that narrowing, that constriction, is what makes it so much harder for air to move in and out. And listen, this is not some rare condition we're talking about. The World Health Organization estimates that back in 2019, around 262 million people were affected by asthma. That is a huge number. It's one of the most common chronic diseases in the world, affecting people of all ages. So chances are you definitely know someone who deals with this every single day. All right, so let's zoom in a little closer. What is actually happening inside those airways to cause such a massive traffic jam for your breath? This breakdown right here shows you exactly what goes wrong. On one side, you've got that normal, relaxed bronchial tube. Air is just flowing freely. But on the other side, you see the asthmatic airway, and it's getting hit by a kind of triple threat of problems that all lead to that dangerous blockage. So here are those 3 big problems. First, the muscles that wrap around your airways, they tighten up and just squeeze the tunnel from the outside. Second, the inside lining of the airway gets inflamed and swells inward, making the space even smaller. And third, as if that weren't enough, the body starts producing all this extra thick mucus that clogs up whatever little space is left. It's that awful combination that makes breathing so difficult. You know, if you really want just a tiny sense of what this feels like, try it for yourself. Grab a drinking straw, pinch it almost closed, and then try to breathe only through that tiny opening. That feeling of resistance, the effort it takes just to get enough air, that gives you a little window into what someone is experiencing during an asthma attack. So if the airways are already so sensitive, what is it that actually sets off an attack? Well, you can think of the tunnels as being prone to sudden rockslides. And these rockslides are what doctors call triggers. And the thing is, these triggers are super personal. They're different for everybody. Some of the really common ones are things you breathe in, like pollen, dust, or pet dander. Irritants like smoke and strong chemical fumes are a huge one. Yep, even just getting a simple cold or the flu can trigger an attack. For some people, it's physical activity, especially out in the cold, dry air. And get this, for others, even strong emotions or a lot of stress can cause those airway muscles to tighten up. So when one of those triggers hits and the airway clamps down, these are the classic signs. A cough that just won't quit, and it's often worse at night. That high-pitched whistling sound when you breathe out, that's called wheezing. Of course, that scary feeling of being short of breath. And a tightness or pressure in your chest, almost like something is squeezing you from the inside. Okay, that is the problem, and yeah, it sounds pretty overwhelming. But here is the really good news. There are fantastic tools to manage it. So let's talk about the maintenance crew that helps keep these tunnels open. Inhalers. And this right here, this is probably the most important message of all. While there is no cure for asthma right now, it is absolutely a manageable condition. With the right plan, the right treatment, people with asthma can run, play, and live completely normal, healthy, active lives. So something that's absolutely crucial to understand is that there are 2 main types of inhalers, and they have very different jobs. Think of them like the rescue crew and the prevention crew. Your rescue crew inhaler is for right now, for immediate relief. It works super fast to relax those tight muscles around your airways, opening them up so you can breathe during an attack. But the prevention crew inhaler, that's for long-term control. Usually take it every day to reduce that underlying inflammation and sensitivity. It basically makes your airways less likely to freak out when you run into one of your triggers in the first place. And all this brings us to the big picture. How do you actually live well with asthma? It really all comes down to being proactive and taking control. And the single most effective tool for that is something called an asthma action plan. Now, this isn't some generic guide. It's a personalized roadmap that you create with your doctor. It spells out exactly which medicines to take and when,
how to spot and avoid your personal triggers, and what to do step by step when your symptoms start to flare up. An action plan really puts you in the driver's seat. So even though the airways in asthma can be like these sensitive, tricky tunnels, there are really powerful ways to keep them clear. The key thing to remember is that asthma is manageable. Understanding it and working with a doctor gives you the power to take control. So the question is, what's your next step to breathing easier? Thanks so much for watching.